What is up, guys? Chef Joe here at Chef Gone Carnivore. I went carnivore about 21 days ago. So far I've lost 21 pounds and I have such a long way to go. I'm trying to get to 200. It feels so far away, but I just have to keep going and get there eventually, right? I've been a professional chef for 15 years in some of the best restaurants in Phoenix, and decided to adopt this carnivore lifestyle to try to help me lose this extra weight that I'm carrying around. But what I wanted to talk about today are 3 things that you can start doing immediately that will help you have better tasting steak. These 3 tips actually apply to any cooking style. So you could be cooking it on a grill outside or in a smoker. Maybe you use a cast iron pan to cook your steak. Maybe you like the sous vide machine, going a little more high tech, or the air fryer perhaps. It actually doesn't matter. These tips apply to any of those cooking methods, and your steak will turn out better no matter how you cook it. So the first thing that a lot of home cooks don't know to do is to actually dry off the meat before you go to sear it or throw it in the fryer, however you're cooking it. So instead of taking it out of the package and then seasoning it and starting to cook it, take 5 seconds and just take a paper towel and dry the surface of the meat. Soak up some of that juice that it's been sitting in the package. Now, wet meat does not sear nearly as well as dry meat. So as the surface is dried, you'll get a much better golden brown crust. And we all know that that golden brown crust on a steak or on a burger or even on a pork chop or chicken breast tastes so much better than the ones where you don't get that crust. And so in order to achieve a better crust on your steak or on your burger or whatever you're cooking, make sure you pat the surface dry with a paper towel. Another option you can do that actually works a little bit better than that is if you keep your meat uncovered in the refrigerator for several hours, when you pull it out, the surface will be nice and dry. The refrigerator does a great job of drying it out. However, if you don't have a couple of hours, which I usually don't, I'll just pat it dry with a paper towel, and that works just fine. All right, the second step to better steak is use a meat thermometer. Meat thermometers are a fantastic way to keep you from having to guess how done your steak is. You insert the thermometer into the thickest part of the steak, try to get it down into right where the center of the steak is going to be, and just look at what temperature it's at. So when you have a doneness you prefer, like at a restaurant, if they say, how do you like your steak? All they're asking you is what temperature do you want us to cook it to? So if you like medium rare steak, then you're looking for a temperature somewhere right around 125 degrees. Or if you like a medium steak, you're gonna let it go a little bit longer till that thermometer tells you it's 135 degrees inside that steak. And so you don't have to guess anymore whether it's the temperature you like. Now, some of you may have a timing rule that you use. So like, let's say you use the air fryer and you have a setting where at this temperature it takes 14 minutes for my steak to get to where I like it to be. That works great sometimes, but what if the steak you get is a 1/4 of an inch thicker or a 1/4 of an inch thinner than what you usually put in? Well, that's gonna make a big difference in how long it takes that steak to reach the temperature that you like. And so that 14 minutes may be way too long for that thinner steak or not quite long enough for that thicker steak. So instead of having to guess exactly how thick your steak, just use a meat thermometer. And then you just stick it in and say, oh, not quite there. It needs about 8 more degrees, so I'll throw it in for a couple more minutes, and boom, it's done. Now you can find meat thermometers at pretty much any department store like Target or Walmart, or you can go to a local like cooking store like Williams-Sonoma or something like that, or just order it on Amazon. They're cheap, they're like 10 bucks. And you don't need a really fancy one or a really nice one, just a simple meat thermometer that you'll see chefs keep it in our sleeve pocket here. And I actually make all of my new cooks carry a meat thermometer around at all times because they haven't quite mastered how to tell how done a steak is by touch yet. So I just have them carry a meat thermometer around, and then they don't have to do that. Now, if you want to get to where you don't need a meat thermometer anymore for pride reasons or to show off or just because you want to keep getting better at cooking, one rule of thumb you can use that can help you know how far a steak is cooked is a rule of thumb. So you take your thumb muscle here, and if you just relax your hand and you squeeze it, that's about what a rare steak feels like. So when the steak is cooking, if you push on it, it'll feel kind of like that. It'll have about that much give. Now if you touch your forefinger and thumb together, that is about what a medium rare steak feels like. Middle finger and thumb, a medium steak, medium well done. It's a rule of thumb, so it works for the most part. Everyone's hand's a little bit different, so it's not perfect, but that kind of gives you an idea what you should be looking for. My suggestion is just use a meat thermometer, and you don't have to go through all that. And if you want to learn how to tell just by touching it, then when you use your meat thermometer and it gets to the temperature you like, touch it. And just start doing that every time you cook your steak, and pretty soon you'll get to where you kind of know what that touch is, and maybe you'll be able to do it without a meat thermometer. But in the meantime, the second tip for better steak instantly, no matter how you cook it, is use a meat thermometer, so you know it's cooked perfectly on the inside. Okay, third tip. So you've taken the time to dry your meat and get a beautiful crust. You've used a meat thermometer, so it's cooked beautifully on the inside. Now it's time to eat, right? Not so fast. The last thing you want to do is pull that steak right off the grill and immediately slice into it. Now maybe you've had the experience where you go and start slicing your steak and the juices are running across your cutting board onto your counter, maybe even down dripping onto the floor because the juices are everywhere. All that means is you sliced that steak entirely too soon after taking it off the grill. You want to let that steak rest at room temperature and let those muscle fibers relax. The moisture will redistribute throughout the steak and be extra juicy. When you slice into it, as soon as you pull it off of the heat or out of your air fryer or out of the sous vide machine or off of your grill, it's too early to slice that steak. If you do, all of those juices will run out and be all over your cutting board. You don't want all the flavor of that steak to be running down your cupboard or running down your countertop. You want it in that steak. So plan on at least 5 minutes. I say more like 10, but at least give it 5 minutes and just let those muscle fibers relax and then slice into it. It'll be much juicier and you won't have as much cleanup on your counter, which is a plus. Don't worry, the steak will still be hot inside. It'll be hot for quite a while after you're done cooking it. Even 10 minutes later, it's still plenty warm inside that steak. It hasn't cooled down inside. It stays warm for a while. So you don't worry about that. And then the last thing you'd want to do is actually cut. I've seen people like barbecuing chicken and they'll slice the chicken breast in half to check to see if it's done. All these juices running through the grill grates onto the coals. Nope, not done. We'll leave it on for another 5 minutes. Now is it done? Slice again. Juice is running out. No wonder those barbecue chickens so often dry when you go to barbecues. It's because they're slicing it on the grill while it's hot. That's why we use a meat thermometer, so you don't have to guess. You say, oh, that chicken is 165 degrees. We're good to go. You pull it, take it inside, let it rest for 10 minutes, and then slice it. You're good to go. So I hope those 3 tips are helpful, that you'll eat better steak. We're eating steak every day or meat every day, so let's have the best version of that meat that we can, right? Maybe some of you are already doing those tips and have had success with that. If so, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. For those of you who haven't, give it a try. Let me know if it helped. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. I plan on making a bunch of other videos about specific cooking methods, how to grill properly, how to use the sous vide machine, different recipes you can be cooking, different cuts of meat that perhaps you haven't tried, like using top round to make some sliced roast beef, or using oxtail, or using how to use chuck properly, maybe how to grind your own burger. Lots and lots and lots of videos I plan on making so that our carnivore community can be eating the best quality food that we can on this diet. If we're going to be eating meat every day, let's make it the best version that we can. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think. Let me know if any of those things helped your steak taste better. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.